But then AI puts this in this interesting point in time where it's like, okay, do you need to, when you're developing a hardware product, like the software will kind of come, like the software and experiences will kind of come with it because AI can bring them essentially. Like, and so this is why I think that we're at the precipice of something really interesting. But effectively, the classic app store lock-ins are about to die. You can port anything to any platform. So like there's the like New York Times can port their app to whatever. Google Play services, like the way that Google's kind of made sure that like Android is sticky, those traditional things I think are under threat with AI in a couple different ways.
Nice. Hey everyone, I'm Brexton, and for some reason I get to talk about cool products with awesome friends building hard things. And today we have Sam D'Amico from Impulse Labs. Thanks for coming on MTS, dude.
Yeah, thanks for hosting.
We're gonna say this is gonna be extremely casual, and we're gonna kick it for the next 30 minutes. But before we get into Impulse and before we get into everything consumer electronics and we're gonna say reindustrialization and everything, Europe is going through its worst heat wave ever, or one of them. A bunch of Europeans got to experience American AC for the first time when they're visiting for the World Cup. We're gonna say why. We're gonna say for your average person who has no idea why can't the UK or Europe pull off ACs?
So I think it's like a culture war thing that inadvertently happened. Like it basically, like from the 60s onwards, the West kind of went through a degrowth phase. Like it was like post baby boom, post World War II, all this other stuff. Like I think just a lot of the forces of kind of we should work with less kind of started taking over. Some of this could have been foreign adversaries encouraging that. Like I think it's well understood that the Soviets basically funded the anti-nuclear movement in Germany, for instance. And so a bunch of factors like this. And the UK, I would almost argue that the Anglosphere is kind of especially guilty of like the almost like NIMBYism in a sense. Like they're like experts at it, and it's like an artifact of like the common law legal structures and stuff like that. So you can see like every English speaking country has in a sense had a version of this. Now obviously America is a lot warmer of a place typically than the UK. So like, you know, AC never became a flashpoint issue because it's like literally it's required if you want to live in Florida. But for places like the UK where like you didn't really need it until the last like 20, 30 years, this became much more of a like, well, we can almost like pay the penance of climate change together by not having this versus, you know, and also people didn't want to like put like a AC box on the outside of their house. Like installing mini splits is like, you know, against local codes, make it not, you know, makes your house not look like beautiful or whatever. It makes your neighborhood not look like it was constructed in 1908. But basically that's my understanding for the rationalization. And then this is now turned into this sort of culture war issue. There's that hilarious image of like America as this heat pump that's blowing hot air on all of Europe. I'm not sure they can pull that one up. I'm not sure they can pull it up, but I retweeted that recently.
Oh, for sure. Well, okay. Then there's like, I think one of the things, and we're gonna jump into this with Impulse, right? Which is, we're gonna say Impulse can build any arbitrary mid-size electronic device, right?
Yep.
And we're gonna jump into why you jumped in with stoves and what have you. But is there a world where someone also creates 10x better ACs, right? And then comes in and becomes the de facto HVAC company for Europe?
Yeah, so I think that there's actually a company that works out of our office that's
No
doing
way.
like very very easy to install air conditioners. This is Merino Energy, but the idea is like you just need to drill 2 holes in the wall and you can put this thing on the wall and it just works. So shout out to Merino. But I think the issue with HVAC is just generally that like in the United States, you're actually bottlenecked by another factor, which is that the EPA restricts the refrigerants and who can handle the refrigerants. So you need
Yep.
a certain license. And so this basically bottlenecks installing HVAC to like certified installers basically versus anyone with a drill to go do
Yep.
it. So like and then Europe has the additional thing of like, again, what I mentioned is like they almost have like aesthetic codes to make sure that the building doesn't look different than it used to. And so historical preservation, and bolting a outdoor mini split unit um, on the side of your historic cottage or whatever, those kind of fight each other. So I think I basically think what's going to happen is maybe it's not this summer, but it's like some summer in the near future, a bunch of things are going to break, and we're going to see kind of similar to like how Austin saw rent spike and then passed a bunch of housing reforms. San Francisco did the same thing. Like I think we're going to start seeing like the kind of anti HVAC cartel crack. Um,
Yeah.
that said, like, is there an innovation opportunity in HVAC? I think there is, mostly around just making the products really well designed and making sure that like the interface is good and all this other
For
stuff. Like
sure.
the product you're effectively getting is that your home is the right temperature, not necessarily that like this is the UX is not necessarily the hardware. It's a little different than what we're doing because it's like you're using the stove, you're in front of it versus like I set a temperature and that I want to be comfortable at.
And
Maybe
then
it's
you just
67
leave it.
degrees and then you just leave it. Like ideally, like keep my house at 67 at all times, like make no mistakes. And like that's the ideal thing for that. Whereas like some of the other products that we can talk about, like,
Yeah.
and this is the reason that like Impulse to start focused on a device that had a really tactile use case was like the flame on your gas stove is the user experience. And
Yep.
so making sure that, we could credibly MOG like stuff like an existing device
Yep.
and and we had to pick a device to start that had kind of that end to end, like you turn the knob and then something gets hot, and that end to end experience is something that we could do something better than. That's why it attracted me to that versus say HVAC or hot water or these other devices where like it's mostly an invisible thing. It's an invisible machine that where the product is effectively a like, yeah, your shower's warm or your house is at the right temperature or whatever.
Okay. So we were saying when you were starting Impulse, right? You could have built anything, right? And so I think like a lot of we're entering this kind of like post AI heavy sci-fi phase. A lot of people want to build like in semis or in defense, and then I think you don't often see people building consumer electronics or consumer devices. So there's like a billion things you could have built, even within, I guess, like household devices. Why stoves specifically? How did you start it? Where are you coming from before? Don't.
Yeah. So background on me. Don't need to go super LinkedIn mode, but basically I've been working in consumer electronics since 2012 timeframe.
Yeah.
Technically working like police robots in 2011, but basically 2012 started working with Google Glass. And the opportunity there was like I got to kind of see from the very early days how to do like an iPhone class consumer electronics device with like a 30-person team, because this was like I was one of the only interns on there. Had a lot of opportunity to kind of grow and learn from people who really knew how to make um, who really know how to make like advanced devices. And then from there, jumped to Oculus, went to you know did everything from like helping write a bunch of the manufacturing software to get sourcing camera modules from Chinese and Korean companies to bringing up the production line and stuff like that, to prototyping what became the Quest line of headsets. And so I was in the consumer electronics space, and a big takeaway I got was this was a mature space. Like if I wanted to make like a VR company or a phone company or something like that, like I know how to make a phone or a VR headset, but I wouldn't necessarily for my first startup raise like $1 billion out of the gate, if not more. And like you'd essentially make a company that would have to get acquired because
Yeah.
for all of those products, there's a two-sided marketplace component. Like you need developers to make apps for those products, and those developers need to have an audience. So you have this problem of like, okay, if I go build the thing, there's no developers for it, so then no one buys it, and like
Yep.
you have this like death spiral. Whereas for like once Oculus was bought by Meta, it's like okay, they funded tons of game studios and tons of content, and like certain things like Beat Saber massively hit and drove adoption of the platform. Pandemic fitness and all this other stuff drove adoption of the platform, et cetera.
Wait, so is there sorry, quick question. is there a world in your head where Oculus could have stayed independent and to have grown to where it is now?
Yes, if I believe that that is now possible with AI, and so
Oh,
that's the thing that has changed. So basically, the point is, if the games are expensive, right? Like, and you don't want to make a bet on an emerging game platform with like no users, but then also like, so the developer needs to have a market to sell into, and then vice versa, the consumer needs to make sure that there's developers making games, because why would I buy something with no content? But if the content is like self-generating, or if it's like a social media thing, like, I mean, I think that one of the visions was like, okay, we'll make a social media metaverse where it's all UGC. So like a proof point of like this being successful is Roblox exists, right? So like
yeah,
if Roblox had a VR player or something like that, you could imagine an independent headset operator as well. So I
for
think,
sure.
but then AI puts this in this interesting point in time where it's like, okay, do you need to, when you're developing a hardware product, like the software will kind of come, like the software and experiences will kind of come with it because AI can bring them essentially. Like, and so
Oh,
this is why I think there were at the precipice of something really interesting. Like there's rumors that came out today of the SpaceX phone, or Elon's not going to call it a
yeah.
phone, but like
Yeah,
a
the
SpaceX,
SpaceX device.
not the SpaceX not phone. And so
Yes.
uh, I've been talking about this for like a year or two. I'm basically utterly convinced that this is going to happen. He'll probably call it like a terminal or whatever he wants to call it. Like, Elon's good at branding and memes and stuff like that, so we don't really need to argue about what it's going to be called. But effectively, the classic App Store lock-ins are about to die. You can port anything to any platform. So like, there's the like New York
Oh,
Times can port their app to whatever. Um, Google Play services, like the way that Google's kind of made sure that like Android is sticky, not just in a like, you won't make a competing Android platform, but you will actually all phone into Google's app. Like Google will control the App Store and control the App Store fees and economics and stuff like that.
yeah.
Those traditional things I think are under threat with AI in a couple different ways. So one is like, the simple one is like, yes, you can port anything to anything, and it's super easy to do that. The second one that I think is more foundational is like, if everything is kind of just like an MCP service or whatever, and like you just have agents going and manage it, like there will be, the app surfaces themselves will just be dynamically generated by whatever is running on the device. And this, I think, is more the vision that we see with like what Elon's proposing with the phone. So for the same reason, I actually think we're at this precipice of like, I think Meta should make a phone. I think SpaceX should make a phone. I think everyone should go back. Like the assumptions that made them cancel these plans, like
Yep.
10 plus years ago, are no longer correct. And that I think there's actually just a big opportunity. Um,
Okay. I'm gonna try to repeat what you said like a 5-year-old, which is
Good.
I was gonna say, like before, the hardware was like always hard, right? Like the hardware part was like always hard, but then you kind of ran into this like immovable wall where the software adoption, kind of like the really network effectsy, marketplacey type stuff was very hard. And
Way
I'm dating
harder, way
myself,
harder, way
way
harder.
harder,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I'm dating myself, but I had a Windows phone back in like the day, like AT&T, what have you. And like the Windows phone couldn't compete at all with iOS or Android at all with like app developers and what have you. So now it seems like, of course, like we'll get into kind of how AI makes making hardware easier, blah, blah, blah. But like all of the software assumptions of building on top of hardware platforms kind of disappear with kind of like code generation, AI, and all this nice stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I would argue that the moats are actually much more durable on the like, can you build the neurotically perfect machines and the platforms that kind of do that, and then software sort of gets delivered through those devices and experiences. Um,
Okay. So then neurotically perfect machines, stoves. How
yeah, yeah,
did
yeah, yeah.
let's connect the dots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so why am I doing stoves of all things? And I think that I was talking to a venture capitalist who just wanted to become friends, as they do, earlier today, and
As
he
they
was
do.
asking the same question. I was asking the same question. It was kind of this. I So when I was at going back to this app store thing and some of these constraints, I was like, I want to make a device where a single player version of it is great, because otherwise you'll have to build this two-sided marketplace and all this other stuff. So I knew that that was a constraint that I would have to do. The second thing is I knew that I was not going to raise enough capital to make a car company. And also I didn't want to compete with Elon. And I also knew that like consumer electronics was kind of mature in a sense where like the low-hanging fruit had been harvested. And so going to the lesson there was like, okay, then I looked at, okay, how did Palmer get Oculus off the ground? And it's kind of like the low-hanging fruit was like he could be in a trailer in his parents' driveway and he could basically pop magnifying lenses out of magnifying glasses or whatever and put them on top of phone or tablet screens and effectively make a better VR headset than had ever been built before. The low-hanging fruit was ready to be picked, basically, is the situation. So I was like, okay, what space, like that's like one end of the spectrum, and then like building Starship is on the other end, right? And I was like, where are opportunities that look like Palmer in his parents' driveway in the trailer or whatever? And realized that basically we had done the small devices. Elon and China had done the big devices. No one had done anything smart in between those two things. And there's a lot of reasons for this that like, extend from like distribution's annoying to about as annoying as distributing cars. So you need dealers, you need all this other stuff. But then also it needs all the safety and compliance stuff. It requires an installation. There's a lot of reasons why this wasn't done. But then once you're in that market, it's a big market. It's like appliance market's like $1 trillion market or whatever.
We'll continue monitoring right after this message from our sponsors. Scale your startup on Neon, the Postgres backend for apps and agents built by Databricks. Neon.com/MTS.
11 Labs, AI that communicates at human level across every channel and modality. 11labs.io/MTS.
Special thanks to our sponsor Kong. Kong, the AI connectivity platform. Connect APIs, LLMs, agents, and systems with serious security and governance. Try it at konghq.com. Thanks to Blitzy, autonomous software development for enterprise codebases. Ship 5 times faster at blitzy.com.
Let me tell you about Merge. OpenAI, Dropbox, and Ramp use Merge to get AI to production faster. Merge.dev/MTS. Quick word from AdQuick. Make your brand a billboard. Out-of-home advertising as easy to scale as digital. AdQuick.com.
Thanks to our sponsor, Macroscope, AI code-based understanding for engineering leaders. Try it out at macroscope.com/MTS.
There's a huge opportunity if you can bring software-defined hardware in the kind of modern envisioned version of it, the same way Tesla has done it, the same way Apple has done it. If you can bring that to bear in that category, you can make a truly more innovative product than anyone else. And so that was like the framing that I used to be like, okay, I'm going to want to build a hardware company. I want to kind of target that sector. I know I'll have an unfair advantage if I'm in that sector and doing that just because of the dynamics of the market. And then it's like, what do I actually do? And so I like cooking. I got kind of like personally obsessed with the idea of like cooking pizza really fast. And I was like, okay, if I could decouple the energy input into the device from the power output, say by putting a battery in the device, I could build a more powerful appliance than everyone else. And I was initially thinking this pizza oven thing and stuff like that. But then I was like backing up a second. I was like, where is the UX, the energy source? And like, where are those tied together? Because that's going to be the pitch to a consumer being like, hey, I want to, make the best thing, or we should buy the best thing. And it's like, okay, it's the stove because you turn the knob that adjusts the flow of the gas to the flame. And so it's a one-to-one analog experience that is fantastic. And also it's a culture war touch point also with all the other things. But like, if I could use the fact that there's a battery in the device to just mug every other stove, to use a Gen Z-ism, or a clavicularism or whatever. Basically, that's my entry point and my justification for being in the market to begin with. And then you can repeat the same strategy of doing kind of like neurotically perfected software-defined hardware across every mid-sized machine, and then you're kind of you're playing ball where Elon is not in an awesome way, and like you're making the world a better place by giving people better ways to cook dinner, and other things, right? And so that's what got me excited about it. There's also like an energy storage play because like you're now sneaking batteries into everyone's house. But really, I was thinking about it kind of like there was Gen 1 of smart appliances of like, hey, we can put phone technology in to like do guided cooking and stuff like that.
Like a fridge.
I was like a fridge, all the Samsung smart stuff basically. And it's like everyone, hey, like I was told by someone that the attach rate for the apps for like smart appliances is like sub 10%. It's probably close to 1%. And so it's like clearly there's no justification here on the product side yet. Let's just make the performance argument, do the Tesla Roadster thing where it's like it's just better, and then move from there. And eventually the smart features, with AI and all this other stuff will be fantastic. But you really justify it from like, okay, it just stoves better than everyone else, and then that's your foot in the door to do the rest of the stuff. So that was kind of why we picked it. It was really like, okay, well, we should do this mid-sized machine market. This is the one where it has actually the most eyeballs and the most like hands-on time in the house of those. And there's a really clear justification for like performance optimization and stuff like that. So that's basically what ended up happening. And if you went back and looked at I made a deck in like 2019 pre-pandemic for this. Pretty much all the claimed things we wanted to put in there were in that deck. It's like temperature control, use the battery to boost the power, et cetera. And like, obviously it took a bunch of years to get the product out from when that existed. But a lot of the challenge actually was figuring out all the various ways to sell a lot of these versus the initial product vision was relatively consistent from the beginning, actually.
All right. I notice you have an actual stove behind you. I need to see it, dude. And I'm going to hype up while you get the stove. I'm going to hype it up because I have a bunch of quotes because Impulse had an awesome press, at least coverage from the New York Times recently. So quotes from that press release. The Impulse cooktop is in a category of its own, right? New York Times. Kane from Root VC quote said, "The coolest consumer hardware demo I've seen in the last year is Sam D'Amico demonstrating his virtual wok jet that redirects the induction field and lets you use woks on the Impulse induction stove." And Yishan, former CEO of Reddit and Terraformation, said, "One thing that makes deep frying hard at home is that if you don't use a huge amount of oil, the oil temp drops as soon as you put food in, making for a worse fry. Impulse cooktop dynamically adjusts the burner output to maintain a set temp, overcoming this problem." All right, Marissa, let's see this 10x better stove, dude.
So it's already hot, by the way.
Wait, when did you turn it on? I was reading. What? Did you just turn that on?
I just turned it on. Yeah. So it's throwing like 10,000 watts into this pot right now.
Okay, so then the first question I have is, pan-fried pizzas. Have you tried this? Have you tried it on the Impulse stove?
I have not done the pan pizza, but I do think that's a good video. So we'll do that in a forthcoming video. They're just throwing 10,000 watts into this pot right now. So you can see it's already boiling. So like a watch pot, boils now. We fixed that adage. And then like, this is the angriest boil you've probably ever seen.
Wait, holy shit. Oh, it's been what, like 10 seconds?
Yeah, this is like, I don't know, it was probably like 30 seconds or something like that. But then you see the control fidelity here. So like I'm turning the knob here. You can see this. Boop.
Yep.
I can turn it up, down, just like it's an analog knob.
Okay.
And then if I want to pull power out, just take the knob off. So if you like don't trust your kids around boiling water, you just like.
Oh, what?
And then.
Oh, wait. And so it doesn't work anymore. Like kids can't touch the stove. Oh, whoa. Wait. Okay. So hold on. Walk me through this real quick. What's I gonna say? When you're like an average person, right? Average household, we're gonna say what like is the pitch for Impulse? You can like we're gonna say just record-breaking speeds for heating.
So there's a couple things. So the first thing is that yes, it boils water like 3 or 4 times faster than pretty much everything else in the market. So like also like you see how fast this responds. Like I just turned it back on again. It's boiling again.
Dear Lord, dude.
So it's just like boom. So first thing is like, yeah, if you want to make pasta, it'll save you 10 minutes. Second thing is like, we actually have physical controls that don't suck. Pretty much everyone else has physical controls that are not great. Like, it's like, unlike every other stove, we can step up by like single digit watts of power. So like, this is like, it doesn't have like fixed bands that it will command the power into. And it also doesn't have a touchscreen. So from a like power and performance control standpoint, it's like, it's the closest thing to a gas stove from a direct control perspective that you can get. I'll turn this up so you don't just see the bottom of my face. And then the last thing from a performance standpoint that I think is not obvious unless you've like used an induction stove or whatever before is like, we can actually hold temperature accurately. So instead of low, medium, and high, so I click this thing once, it's in power mode. So basically it says like, this is how many watts are in there. Think of power mode as like more watts, more bubbles. But then what we also can do is we can set temperature. So I can say instead of low, medium, high, 10,000 watts, 1,000 watts, whatever, I can say, let's hold it to 315 degrees, which coincidentally makes an egg nice and crispy if you fry it sunny side up. So what I'm doing now is I've set this to 315. And what I can do then is I can put, I'm literally making an egg on here.
Oh, let's fucking go, dude.
So I can just do that. Notice this butter is not burning. So it's just going to basically lightly brown the butter at max. So it's just sitting like that. And this is something that no other stove can do. So if you see someone basically like cooking with the regular induction stove or whatever, they're going to do this and they're going to lift it off and do all the other things to like try to maintain temperature. We have solved the hardest to automate part of cooking, which is you set this thing to 315. It is 315 on the top surface through this sensor technology we developed ourselves. And so what this means is any pan, doesn't really matter, you can set a temperature and it'll hold it, which is kind of like the holy grail of automated surface cooking. And then the next thing is like, okay, I get made fun of on Twitter all the time for not being able to crack eggs properly. So,
hey, not bad.
I succeeded.
Not bad.
It's been compared to me gouging someone's eye out or something like that, when I think the thumb sort of thing. But basically, you'll see here, this egg is just like not burning and also not sticking because it's just gonna sit there. So what I can basically do is like, okay, we'll lightly steam the top of the egg or whatever, but I could leave this without, you just leave it.
Like,
I can leave it. It'll just get more and more done, basically.
Yeah.
And so, and when I put that egg in, it knew to apply more power to keep the bottom of the pan temperature consistent. So this goes back to like what Yishan was saying with like the deep fry, where it's like he can shallow pan fry a bunch of French fries and it doesn't cause them to get soggy and drop the temperature or whatever. It's like when I put that egg in, it increased the power from a couple hundred watts to like 2,000 watts or something like that, just to make sure the bottom of the egg didn't stick to the pan. And you'll see, like, as this thing is being held here, I'm just going to poach the top, lightly. It, I can basically just do a podcast or a live show. I can talk to you about this. I'm not worried about it. Like, maybe the yolk will get a little firmer or whatever. But like, we can continue having this conversation while this is going on. And so it's like, we were told, like, we've got some professional chefs who, like, Caden Scow is a friend of ours. He's got a stove actually at his restaurant in Shenzhen, which is hilarious. But he was like, "What do I do with my hands now? Like, I'm used to doing all sorts of whatever." And it's like, no, this thing's just like, it's chilling. This egg is egg maxing or whatever you want to call it. And like, you can see now it's looking more done. And like, you see it's like lightly crispy on there.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, like, unlike other induction stoves, like, you lift this thing up, it doesn't beep annoyingly. We just went and like kind of just neurotically tried to fix everything that people would complain about with these products.
For sure.
And then, seems like the New York Times agrees with us on what we did. So that's good.
Dude, okay, this is sick. And we're gonna say my last question, I have two last questions before we wrap up, right? Number one, for the average person who's looking for a 10x better stove, do they typically find you on like websites? Is it like, I know you're showing in like hundreds of showrooms in the US.
Yep.
how does the average person find you?
Yeah. So like, this is a big challenge. It's like, are you a D2C product? And I think the answer is yes, you can buy us D2C. You can find me on Twitter. You're like, okay, cool. I'll click the link in the guy's bio and buy the stove. But like the average person who's in the act of buying these mid-sized machines is not doing that. They're not like following, me on
I'm
Twitter.
not Googling
like
a stove. Yeah.
You're also not Googling a stove in a bunch of cases. Like this is not commonly sold D2C thing. So what we did is we partnered with existing appliance makers. So the currently shipping partnerships with Zephyr, which makes ventilation hoods. And so everywhere there's a ventilation hood, well, it's a convenient spot to sell a stove. So we've been rolling that partnership out over the past several months. There's actually a link to all the showrooms that we're in with Zephyr on our website at impulselabs.com. And that's been able to get us a lot of reach because it's kind of like the car dealership problem. Like this is like, again, like Tesla kind of really prides itself on its D2C thing.
Yeah.
But they were shipping through Toyota with the Toyota RAV4 EV. Like that was like one of the key things that like underwrote their IPO and all this other stuff. So like we realized that like even if there's a broader D2C vision here, us being kind of the power electronics platform for every mid-sized machine is one of the ways to get there as well. And so excited about that. Also, by the way, this egg is done. Is done. And so what's crazy?
This was a sick live demo. Jeez.
And
holy hell.
And notice it didn't stick.
Incredible.
Stick and then like, and still got a runny yolk, all this other stuff. So it's got that turmeric egg or whatever. But yeah. And then this is just chilling at 315. It's not like I'd removed the egg. It's still working, all this other stuff. So
dude, you're saying,
first time I've done a demo on a live stream, but yeah.
Dude, okay. We're gonna say, I love this. One last question before we wrap up. We're gonna say, as a founder building really cool consumer products, if you had to shout out another founder and another product that you love, that you use yourself, that you would pay for, what is it?
Yep. I am eagerly awaiting getting the new Framework laptop. I've been friends with Nirav for a long time. He was my boss. He was my boss at one point, so he's one of the reasons that I know how to even do any of this stuff. But yeah, super excited about that rollout for their Pro laptop. And then
Amazing. Awesome. Sam, I regret having only booked us 30 minutes. Thanks for joining us on MTS.
We can do more. We can do more cooking content soon. I have a content studio upstairs. This is just my actual desk at the office.
We're gonna beg the MTS folks for more time. Thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for watching, and then we're gonna say MTS will be back soon. Bye, everyone.
MTS is an ex-native live streaming news and interview show covering technology, business, politics, and culture as it happens. Catch us every weekday live on X, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.